Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we are going to have a little chat about a couple of interesting things what you, the people, have sent me quite a few times, in fairness. So, this, I don't think originated on Bolter and Chainsword. It looks like this came from a different site, but someone has got the information from that and placed it there for discussion. And it is, people have been looking at like shipping and tracking information to have a look and see what Games Workshop is sending where. And out of that has come the information that there is going to be a Adeptus Custodes Codex number 2, so their second codex is imminent by the look of things, and not the next Psychic Awakening book, or the one after that, because we know what those are called, we know it's Greater Good and Saga of the Beast, but the one after that, which seems to be Engine War. So Psychic Awakening Engine War, which sounds absolutely solid. I don't really know what it's going to entail. In fact, we're going to talk about that, make a few guesses, take a few wild random stabs in the dark, but just the sound of it, already my favourite. Engine War sounds great. So, also Aeronautica Imperialis Talos as well. That's something else that has been found too. Not a follower of that game myself, but if you play that, then it could well be that there's going to be some more stuff coming for there. Maybe new faction, perhaps? Possible, feasible even. So what I'll do is I'll put a screenshot of the thing for the Adeptus Custodes so you can see what it is, and it's the same people have found the same, like all three of those bits of information, along with some Age of Sigmar stuff as well. But firstly, Adeptus Custodes Codex number 2. That is interesting, mostly because typically, I would expect there to be some sort of major thing to go along with a new Codex announcement based off the last couple. I mean, we had the new Chaos Space Marine Codex, and that had a massive refresh of units. It had a decent number of new kits. They brought a lot of that stuff up to scratch and released some new stuff for it. Same thing with the Space Marine Codex. That was split, obviously, into the Codex plus supplements, and there was a significant range drop at the same time. I would be interested to see what it is that we get alongside Adeptus Custodes. One of the first things that I thought was perhaps the inclusion of Sisters of Silence, but they have had their White Dwarf article allowing them to be fielded by themselves. So I'm not entirely sure whether they would throw them in sort of this late on, and how that would impact being able to play them as their own force. Perhaps if they were incorporated into it, as they were in Talons of the Emperor, there would be... I mean, they would get more options. That side of the force would be expanded on. The Custodes maybe not get a huge amount, instead it's split between the two. I mean, them getting some attention, the Sisters of Silence, would be nice. I mean, they did get their brief moment in White Dwarf, but they are still a faction that I feel like could be expanded on and could be made to be more interesting and more overall applicable than they currently are. In terms of new units for the Adeptus Custodes, I don't know. I mean, but it would be nice if we actually got to see dreadnoughts for them that were unique to them, but then we already get that from Forge World, so would Games Workshop add that? I've seen the idea of sticking the Forge World units that you can buy into the Codex, but that would be pretty damn unique. As far as I know, I genuinely can't think of a codex that contains like a whole bunch of Forge World products. There might be products that Forge World makes that you can use, but I don't know that necessarily there's anything in there that isn't Games Workshop specific. I mean, even things like, yes, there is like Centurion Terminator armor and Cataphractii Terminator armor, Tartarus Centurion. No, that's not a thing. I meant to say Cataphractii. I just said the wrong word. So there are, there are things that you can get from Forge World, but those are also plastic kits as well. I don't know if they'd stick all of the Forge World stuff into the Adeptus Custodes Codex, because if someone picks up that Codex and they go to a Games Workshop, they're not going to be able to buy a significant chunk of the stuff that's in there, and that strikes me as being something that Games Workshop wouldn't do. I don't know. It would be interesting if they did, and it would be a different move for sure. It'd be something that I'm 99% sure they just haven't done before. Obviously, you can get the rules for Forge World stuff, clearly, because you can use a lot of it in 40k, like a lot of the Horus Heresy stuff you can use in 40k, but that's by buying Forge World books, not by buying Games Workshop codexes. So, I can't see that personally. It would be a big shift if they did, but it would also massively expand the amount of stuff that Adeptus Custodes could take. I mean, you'd have their unique dreadnoughts in there, you'd have their unique vehicles in there. I mean, I don't know. It would be a significant shift, and I'm not sure we're going to see that. In terms of new units, it's honestly difficult to tell. I mean, they are a small elite army. That's what they always have been, and that's what fits their lore entirely. So, outside of introducing more variation in the squads, but keeping them similar in terms of function, I'm not sure what else we'd see for their second codex. Kind of an intriguing one in a way, because there are options, but they're out of left field options, and one of them is essentially a separate faction, but not really because they work so closely. Interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what it is. The other thing, of course, is Psychic Awakening Engine War, which, I mean, the first thing I think when I hear Engine is Titans, which is obviously what I assume most of us think when we hear, like, I mean, Engine War, Engine Kill, it's a fairly big, thing, as Titans usually are. I did think maybe Knights. I mean, Renegade Knights versus Loyalist Knights, but then that is only two, in a way, kind of niche factions, sort of. Not niche, but would you be able to get a full Psychic Awakening book out of Knight households fighting? Maybe, yeah, possibly. But there's so much more that it could be expanded around. And would we see a vast Knight household war without some kind of supporting elements from other people? Like, if there's a conflict big enough that there are like entire Chaos Knight households and entire Loyalist Knight households going at it, would we not see the inclusion of, say, Admech or Imperial Guard or Traitor Guard or Dark Admech? Now, if I wanted to go super over the top with predictions and things that absolutely probably won't happen, this could be the book to introduce Renegade Guard. No, that's not going to happen. Really, I think it feels likely that there's going to be Knights involved in there. They could get away with doing the Imperial Knight Renegade box again if they wanted to. Just reprint it with a different heading. Just call it Engine War instead of that. Might seem a bit cheeky and a bit cheap, but they could get away with it. I feel like Admech and Knights versus Chaos Knights, but the thing is, what would you put with the Chaos Knights? I don't think you could just stick Chaos Space Marines with them, because we've already had the Chaos Space Marine Psychic Awakening book. That would double up for them, and that wouldn't make much sense. Dark Admech is an option, but then Dark Admech don't have a codex. Unless they are going to use the book to introduce a way to just play Admech as Dark Mechanicus, then that seems kind of unlikely as well. Alternatively, there's no Chaos Knights involved, and Engine War is Imperial Knights, Adeptus Mechanicus versus Necrons, which would be fun, but we've literally already had that before. We've already had that fight once before. We had an entire box. It was the box they introduced the Armiger Knight in, the name of which currently escapes me. Nope, can't remember what it was called, but there was one. There was. Would that be a bit of a rehash, maybe, or maybe a continuation of that? Like a kind of rivalry is built up to this, even more so than normal. Like a kind of cascading series of events that lead up to like the grudge match, so to speak, in Psychic Awakening. But then Necrons aren't necessarily, they're not really referred to as engines. An Engine War has a particular feel to it that I don't know necessarily fits Necrons. Then again, I don't know. It's actually a tricky one, because you can kind of guess what's going where to a certain extent. I mean, obviously we knew with Ritual of the Damned what that was going to be about because they told us, but the greater good, unquestionably Tau. There's very little chance of it being anything else. Who their enemies would be, is something that was up for debate. It looks like it's probably going to be Death Guard, but that's something that, at least one side, you're there, With this one, and of course Saga of the Beast is just going to be Orcs versus Space Wolves, because what else could that possibly be? With this one, it's a little bit more tricky, because Engine War brings a few things to mind. Primarily for me, it's Knights and Titans. It's not going to be about Titans, because Games Workshop don't sell Titans. Forge will do. It could well be about Knights, but then having it just be Chaos Knights versus Imperial Knights feels like a strange way of doing that. That feels like something that doesn't quite match up. I would expect to see some sort of supporting force on either side, but then all the supporting forces for Chaos Knights don't make sense to just be thrown into a Psychic Awakening book, because ideally they'd be things that got their own book. You know, if it was Knights and Imperial Guard versus Chaos Knights and Renegade Guard, well, Renegade Guard don't have a book, and just Psychic Awakening, that one book, wouldn't do them justice. That wouldn't be enough. Same thing with Adeptus Mechanicus versus Dark Mechanicus, with Knights on either side. It's tricky. It's actually a tricky one. I feel like we are going to see Knights to some extent, but it's who supports them. I mean, might that be the point where we see the AdMech Flyer that has been revealed? I mean, that would be a good time to have that model drop, but that's a significant model to put out with that book. What else would you put with it? Would it just be that? Would that be the one thing that AdMech get? Except it's not a character, so it wouldn't necessarily fit in with the way they've been doing things up till now anyway. So far we've had either a box or we've had characters. And even the box had characters in it. And, you know, the AdMech Flyer isn't a character. So would it be part of a larger box that would go with that book? It's genuinely tricky, genuinely difficult to tell. And I'm really excited to see what it actually ends up being. Because there's so much potential and there's so many different things that it could be that, yeah. Oh, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting. It better be good, because Engine War sounds fucking solid. You're not telling me it doesn't sound great, Engine War. I suppose Necron's got world engines. Oh, okay. Maybe, hear me out. No Chaos Knights, because then that would get a bit messy. What if it was just Adeptus Mechanicus and Knights versus Necrons on a world engine? That would work. That would work. Engine is covering 2 different points there. That's it. Oh, maybe. That would be fun. Obviously, that's just a random conjecture, just thrown out there, but who knows? I'm quite looking forward to seeing what that is now. Pity we've got quite a while to wait, because we've still Greater Good and we've still got Saga of the Beast, and then most likely it'll be this Engine War. But, yeah, I mean, it might be later than that. It seems unlikely, though. I'd expect it to be the one after Saga of the Beast, just because it's already sort of out there in shipping information and stuff. Either way, we've got the LVO. That's going to happen today, so we'll have all the information for that tomorrow. The info for the UK goes out at 5 AM. I'm not going to get up at 5 AM and record a video for that. I will record it when I get round to it, probably about 10 o'clock, something like that. Because, look, I'm not getting up that early. Why would you? No. So, we've got that to look forward to tomorrow. There may be some more clues, there may be some more hints. We may get something more for either the Greater Good or something for Saga of the Beast. And if they're going to do something with Adeptus Custodes, if there is a new unit, there's a chance you might see something from that. Should be fun. Should be interesting. So yeah, let me know your theories, ideas, and wild guesses for the second Adeptus Custodes Codex and Psychic Awakening Engine War. Your best guesses as what they could be. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things, Patreon, video, subscribe, click it if you like, don't if you don't want to. And of course there is an affiliate link for Element Games in the description, whereby if you buy something, I get something for sending you that way. You save a bunch of money because it's way cheaper than going to Games Workshop. It's just a nice way to support the channel, buying the stuff you'd buy anyway for very little extra effort. You can do it if you like. Oh, and 10% of whatever you spend goes to charity at the end of the month. You can do it if you want. It's up to you. Not forcing you, not telling you, just letting you know it's there if you want. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.